I'm at the grocery store and I am worried about inflation. The price of milk, it's like up 10% from last week. $4.99 for some eggs. And bacon is up 20% in the last month. 20%? And peanut butter, my favorite peanut butter, up 15%. There goes my peanut butter and bacon sandwich. And tea, my favorite tea, has gone from $2.89 to $3.29 in just 2 weeks. Look, I think we're all worried about inflation, but I think we've got to think about why. Why is this happening? And who should we be mad at, and what should we do about it? We hear a lot about oil prices and the cost of labor and all of those things contributing to inflation. But the thing that we don't hear about much is one of the major causes of inflation, which is corporate profits. Corporate greed. In this hard time in our country, we are not hearing about that. Because inflation, yes, is at an all-time 41-year high, but corporate profits are at a 50-year high. Just think about it. In 2019, corporate profits for all goods and services was about $1 trillion. 2 years later, that profit margin is $1.75 trillion, almost twice what it was 2 years ago. So they saw an opportunity and they went for it. That means for every man, woman, and child in America, profits were about $3,000 2 years ago, and now they're almost $5,000. That is what's happening, and corporate profits account for 44% of inflation. Corporate greed. So if we didn't have that, if they weren't price gouging, if they weren't going after this opportunity that they saw, that means inflation would be at about 3.8%, not 6.8%. And we're seeing more and more concentration of big businesses and more oligopolies, and we see that's what's happening. So when you're mad about inflation like me, let's think about who to blame and what we should do. And when we think about who to blame, it's the corporations and the concentration of wealth in these big companies that is substantially and mostly to blame. And it matters because then we think about what are we going to do about it. And what we do about it is not to punish consumers with higher interest rates or taking away student loan forgiveness or any of those things. What we need to do is look at these corporate profits. So what can we do? We can strengthen price fixing laws. In the last couple of years, there have been court cases that have really loosened the price fixing laws so that they can talk to each other, and these big oligopolies can talk to each other and decide when they're going to start raising prices. The second thing we can do is we can have an excess profits tax. Now, this is something that's happened mostly during wartime or during crises, but I would say you could say the pandemic is a crisis, and we could tax excess profits, unreasonable profits, and then it would reduce the incentive to do price gouging. And we have to strengthen our antitrust laws because we see that concentration of wealth happening, and that always leads to higher prices. Most importantly, we have to talk about it. So when you're mad about inflation, or when you hear the news media talk about inflation at an all-time high or a 40-year high, I want you to always say and finish that sentence both to yourself and to your neighbors and your friends. Yes, inflation is at a 40-year high, and corporate profits are at a 50-year high. And let's look at that, and that's the way to deal with it. And while we're at it, let's tax the rich and let them pay their fair share too. There goes my peanut butter and bacon sandwich.